Good morning, everybody, and a very, very happy Tuesday. Now that the dust has settled with all of the IAC results, all the hype that you've seen all over social media, and maybe you weren't able to share in that hype this time around, I thought now would be a really good time to make a video to inspire you to keep going and to just not give up. This came as a request from one of my students, and I thought that it would be a really good idea just to sort of formulate an action plan and to give you some motivation that failure is not the end of the world. What if I told you that some of the best CAs that I know failed somewhere along the journey, either in undergrad, postgrad, board exams? There are so many different journeys. And as they say, comparison is a thief of joy. So if you are constantly comparing where you're at to where other people are at, you are going to invoke a life of misery. So focus on your own journey. And the most important thing to keep in mind is that absolutely everything happens for a reason. You might not understand it now. You might not understand it 2 years from now. You might not even understand it 5 years from now. But eventually you will see that your life had to take this path, and you will be so happy that it did, that you did encounter this little bump in the road because it forced you to slow down to avoid a much bigger head-on collision later on down the line. So sometimes inconveniences, as frustrating as they can be, they are also very necessary. If I look at my life, for example, if I had figured out what I wanted to do straight out of high school, I would probably never have moved to Cape Town, where I would never have done my articles at KPMG, and I had a fabulous articles experience there. I would never have started Journey to CASA. I would not be making this video right now. I would not have met the incredible people that I've met, built a solid LinkedIn network, been able to have the privilege of inspiring and assisting others on the journey. So looking back, and it only really set in once I qualified. Looking back, everything happened exactly as it was supposed to. That 4-year delay that I had before starting this journey was exactly what I needed to be the person that I was meant to become and to follow the path that was destined for me. So always just trust in the map of your life that has been planned out for you, because I promise you everything happens for a reason, but your attitude is everything. So if you want to wallow, of course, a little bit of wallowing is okay. Once you receive that initial result, if you took the weekend to just be angry and to cry and feel frustrated and almost, why did this happen to me? If you did that, but then you decided on the Monday, okay, cool, time to pick myself up, dust myself off, and try again, then that's great. But if now, almost 2 weeks later, you are still thinking, oh, this is so unfair, why did this happen to me? Maybe this is not meant for me. If you are going to keep entertaining that mindset, you are going to stay stuck, I'm afraid. So the first thing you need to do is change your mindset. All right, so let's go through this little PowerPoint that I have prepared. And that's basically saying where to from now. Okay, so let's think about who you are post-failing. So we're first going to go through who you are not. Okay, you are not a failure. I know you might have convinced yourself that you are a failure because how could you have failed this exam when you put in so much effort? How could you disappoint your family like this? How could you disappoint yourself? So I can imagine there's a lot of beating ourselves up going on. And I'm here to remind you that you are not a failure. Like I said, some of the best CAs that I know have failed somewhere along the journey. Some of the best CAs that I know took longer than 7 years to qualify. Okay, some of the best CAs that I know and the most inspiring people that I've met have taken 10, 11 years to qualify. There is no set timeline. It's all your own race at your own pace. You are not incompetent. This one exam, or if you have failed maybe in the past, this does not render you incompetent. Have you actually taken a step back to look at the things that were going on in your life at the time that you wrote this exam, or in the months leading up to this exam? Because all we tend to focus on is the exam day. Say, how on earth? I'm so incompetent, I'm so stupid, I don't have the knowledge necessary for this, maybe I'm not cut out for it. And I need you to stop that thinking right now. You are not capable of being a CA. I could have chosen some better English there. But you are definitely still capable and still worthy of being a CA. You are not an imposter in this field. Trust me, this is something that I've struggled with a lot. I remember when I had a lot of debt. I had racked up a significant amount of debt in my PGDA year. And I thought to myself, how can I be a CA if my own house is in such disarray? And truthfully, I was only able to get my house in order later on in life once I qualified and paid off that debt. But for the longest time, I felt like an imposter. And the fact is, it doesn't matter that that happened to me. It matters that I dealt with it. And I don't need to deal with it immediately, but I did deal with it later on. I made a plan and I overcame that. So I know the imposter syndrome is probably shouting at you, saying, maybe this is not for you. Maybe you need to look at something else because, yeah, you don't belong here. I mean, look at all the people around you. How could you think that you belong here? And the only reason I'm so well versed in this voice is because I dealt with that disgusting little voice so many times during my journey. So I'm here to tell you that you are not an imposter. So who you are, even though you have failed, you are a human being who's impacted by life. I know we want to pretend that the things that are going on with our friends and families and living situations and finances, I know we like to think that it doesn't impact the person that we are when we are writing that exam, but it really does. So yesterday, I had a really terrible day. I don't know why, but I was just not on the ball. I was not sharp. I was making silly mistakes. And that's obviously just the result of things in my life that are happening, that are impacting me in my subconscious, and eventually something's got to give. So think about, like I mentioned earlier, think about what was happening in your life in the months leading up to the exam. Maybe you had a family fallout, maybe you lost a loved one, maybe you were working insane amounts of overtime at your job. Maybe you were really hard hit with an expense you weren't expecting and that was stressing you out. Maybe your child was sick. Okay, so these are all things that are going to impact the person that you are when you show up on the day of the exam. So I'm really proud of you for showing up to write that exam, but life happens and that's okay. When I had my little meltdown yesterday with all the mistakes that I was making, somebody very special to me actually called me and said, Jade, what are you? So here's Jade. Such an idiot. I'm an idiot sandwich. I'm so dumb. I don't belong here. Like sobbing and just going ham on myself. And they said to me, no, Jade, you have skin. The only place you really have hair or like fur is on your head. You have conscience. You are able to speak a language. So that makes you human, and humans are allowed to make mistakes. So I know in the age of AI, there's so much more pressure to have it all together, to be almost robotic, but at the end of the day, we are still humans. We cannot separate the things that are going on in our lives to the people that we are when we're writing an exam or going to work. Okay, so being impacted by life is okay. All right. You are someone still worthy of pursuing their dreams. So, if this is a dream that you've had because you want to make your grandmother proud, then you are still worthy of pursuing that. If this is a dream you had because you don't want your family to struggle, you are still worthy of pursuing that dream. Okay, so you are still worthy. You are still a competent and capable individual. One exam does not determine how competent and capable you are. I mean, the fact that you've gotten to this point, you have done undergrad, you've done PGDA, you are maybe done with articles already, or maybe you are in your first, second, third year, you're just starting articles, you've just moved into your own little flat for the first time because now you're earning some money, you feel good because you're sending some money back home. You did that. You got to this point because of who you are, because of the effort you've put in. So don't disregard that. You are still a competent and capable individual. And you are indeed someone who will go on to inspire others. Once you get to the finish line, or actually I like to refer to it as the starting line, because like I was saying to some PGDA students the other day, it really doesn't end in CASA. It only begins in CASA. So that is when a whole new chapter of your life starts, because it's new decisions, new responsibilities, new challenges, a new path to take. Okay, so once you get to that starting line, your journey will inspire other people who find themselves in a similar situation. And to be honest, my favorite stories are the unconventional ones. I don't really care much for, oh yeah, I knew exactly out of school I wanted to be a CA, and I passed my undergrad cum laude, and I passed PGDA first time and both my board exams, and had my articles signed off without an extension. And I don't really care much for those stories. I care for the stories where life happened and you showed up anyway. Okay, so what are we going to do now? First and foremost, and this is really important, so drum roll. Stop being so hard on yourself. You tried, you gave it your all, that's what matters. And what matters even more is that you are going to show up to write again in June. So I need you to stop beating yourself up, give yourself a chance to breathe, and then we're going to talk about an action plan. Okay, so we're going to pinky promise, we're going to stop being so hard on ourselves. Okay, pinky promise. And I take that very, very seriously, so I expect you to uphold it. All right, so what are we going to do now? You need to wait for Psycho to release your script. They will send you your mark plan so you can see exactly where you've gone wrong, and that's where you're going to perform a lost mark analysis. Now, this is not looking at your paper going, oh, my technical knowledge is so bad, so I just need to revise a lot of theory and then I'll be fine. No, actually, a lost mark analysis occurs. It's basically like 3 checkpoints that you need to look at for each mark that you lost. Okay, and there's an existence check and a completeness check. But I can make a separate video on performing a lost mark analysis because I think this is a really, really, really crucial part of the process. Okay, so wait for those scripts, watch my video on performing a lost mark analysis, and then do one yourself. Okay, you want to do a traffic light approach when it comes to the different topics in the different modules. So what that means is you're going to take a curriculum for audit, Manfin, tax, and FINAC, and you are going to assign a color to each topic within each of those modules. So it's either going to be red. Red is I'm really lost, or I don't remember even learning this ever in my life. So red is I need to focus on this because I really don't know what's going on. Orange is I'm okay. I'm 50-50. Hey, I'm either gonna speed up or slow down. And if you live in Joburg, you know, most people see an orange light and speed up. It's a truly terrifying experience living here and driving here. Although the people are really cool. And actually Joburg's cool overall. But that's a story for another day. So orange is 50-50. Green is I'm okay with this. And before you even think of telling me, oh, there's nothing that's green, I promise you there is something that's green. And what's going to inform this traffic light approach is, yeah, you guessed it, the lost mark analysis. Because you are going to look at question 1 required A, and you're going to see, oh, I got 6 out of 10. That's a green topic. So you don't have to stress too much about it. You're going to look at required B and you're going to see, oof, I got 0 out of 16. That's a red topic. You're going to look at required C, and now all of a sudden you've got 4 out of 8. That's an orange topic. Okay, so with green, you're kind of going to back yourself and say, okay, I don't need to revise that immediately. I'm going to prioritize red and I'm going to do some of the orange. And then if I have some time left over, I'll go back to green. Okay, so traffic lights approach, super important. This is the really, really, really key piece. I know we all fall into the trap of thinking, I have to be doing endless hours of work every day to get somewhere. And that's not the truth, okay? Because if I run 1 kilometer every day, just 1 kilometer, by the end of the year, if I start in January, 1st of Jan, I will have run 365 kilometers. But if I say, oh, I'm going to run as a non-runner, I'm going to run 10 kilometers every day, I'm going to fall off the wagon pretty quickly because it's not sustainable and there's no consistency. It's just giving yourself a really unrealistic goal and expecting yourself to show up and achieve it every day. You're going to burn out, you're going to get injured. Now all of a sudden you can't run for 6 months because you have hurt your knee or you've torn a ligament or something. Okay, so it's better to do a little bit every day. And I have this approach of just one. So whether that's just 1 hour, just one topic, just one question, just one module, whatever your just one looks like with your specific circumstances in life, that is what you are going to focus on doing every day. You're not going to say, okay, cool, I work 8 hours a day and I'm going to get home and do 6 hours of studying. You are going to fall off the wagon very, very quickly. Okay, so rather just promise to do 1 hour. And if you do 1 hour every day, you will be very surprised by how much you actually get done, as opposed to saying, oh, now I've got to study for 6 hours every day and I'm so tired because I've just worked so hard, full-time job, I've got kids to take care of. So let's be realistic and set smaller, more achievable goals rather than unrealistic goals that are going to cause us to fall off track and lose motivation. Okay, remember, motivation is going to get you started, but discipline and consistency is going to get you over the finish line. Okay, you need to balance strategy and technical. The trap that I see so many people falling into is, oh, I just need to revise my theory. Let me tell you that if you don't know how to handle being under time pressure, how to find information in the scenario, how to plan your answer to actually answer what the required is asking, not what you think it's asking. If you don't know how to do those 3 key things, your technical knowledge literally means nothing. Because if you have such great technical knowledge that you spend all of the time on 50% of the paper, let's bring it down a little bit, on 40% of the paper, you're still not going to pass. And that's assuming you get 40% overall, okay? You need to balance the strategy, better known as exam technique, but I don't like that word. You need to balance that with the technical. So you can't just be theory, theory, theory. You are going to have to put yourself under time pressure, practice marking up your paper. So a way that I like to do that is, even if I'm only doing 2 out of the 5 requireds in a paper, I'm still reading the full scenario. I'm still looking for all the triggers for all 5 questions. Okay, so it's kind of like a 2 birds, 1 stone approach. Okay, and finding a study buddy to hold you accountable. So I will be doing IAC workshops towards the end of May, and you'll be able to find a study buddy in my workshops if you do end up joining. And that is a good way to really keep yourselves accountable. Even if you say, okay, cool, every night for 1 hour, we're going to set up a Zoom meeting and we're going to do 2 requireds from a past exam. That's going to be great. That's going to get you very far. Okay, and making sure to incorporate time pressure there as well. Okay, so that is pretty much it. I hope you do feel inspired to keep going, because you are still worthy, because you can do this, and because it doesn't mean that you're now incompetent just because you failed. Okay, even if it's not your first time failing, that's absolutely okay. You can still go on to be one of the best CAs. So good luck, keep an eye out for my workshops, and keep going.